Welcome, folks. This is Chris Jansen. I'm here with lots of good friends today. We're here from the True Media, and we're here to talk about truth and freedom and love. And we're going to just run around the round table and get some different voices so you can hear from the minds of like individuals. And first, I'm going to start with my friend Will here, and we're going to talk about today, what does it mean to be a moral human being?
What the hell?
Hey, there's Dominic. He came in sideways. Right on. That's unexpected, but kind of funny. So that's all right. Anyway, why don't you start us off, Will? And whenever we get Dominic straightened out, we'll hear from him.
Sure. Yeah. What does it mean to be a moral person? Morality is the objective knowing of what is right action and wrong behavior, and the causal factor or the common denominator is harm. So to truly be a moral person, you have to first understand what morality is and imply that into your behavior, meaning you do not cause harm to another sentient being. Um, and there's subcategories that go in with that. Obviously, the mental plane with your thoughts, everything stems from your thoughts, and then that transpires over to your feelings, and then, of course, your actions and your behavior is dictated from there. So, to be truly a moral person, you have to know what your rights are and what is a right, a wrongdoing, and a right. And a right is any action that does not initiate harm on another sentient being. And yes, that does imply animals as well.
Thanks, Will. It's a great start.
Textbook definition.
Excellent. Yes. I'd say, I'm just going to say real quick that I think one of the biggest aspects of being a moral human being is being conscious. And that means really just being aware of what's going on and really putting your mind to thinking about it and putting your energy and your willpower into being and being conscious of what's going on and thinking about whether it matters or not. And I think that's a big step that a lot of folks aren't taking in the modern world. There's just so many distractions. But I'm not going to talk too much. I want to hear from William. William, you want to talk for a little bit here about what it means to be a horrible person, a moral person?
Sure. So being a moral person is just like Will said. I can't really do much better than that. But I mean, what path someone's on as far as self-realization is another issue. So it implies one needs to understand what is right, what is harm. So you need to have knowledge. You need to have, I would say, knowledge of the occult. Being born into this world, to be in it, not of it, is I think part of the puzzle there too. I grew up here in America, eating meat, not really understanding right from wrong. My parents didn't know one way or the other. They're just slaves in the system. They still are. And they will be till they die, I'm pretty sure. And, it's sad, but, they're just not willing to turn around on that. So basically, being in the world, not of the world. This takes a lot of looking in the mirror, a lot of, seeking moral philosophers that, trying to walk in their footsteps and, taking hints from your cosmic companionship. I believe that I understand that there are watchers helping us and, guiding us if we're willing to listen and, uh, you know, if we want to grow,
Last 2
basically.
minutes there.
So I think the just to wrap it up, someone needs to want to more, you know, something better. You know, you just can't stay in the same place. So if you have that, you know, you're just discontented with where you're at, I think that's a good starting place.
Yeah, because things are not good, so it's not a good place to be comfortable. All right, Philip, what do you got for us on being a moral human being?
All right. Well, I think we've done a good job, trivium style, of defining morality. You know, as knowing, and then your actions being in harmony with that knowing of what rights are. I also would have a difficult time discussing morality if I didn't say the word honesty. I think that honesty is the key root to morality, and that, you know, being a moral human being means, you know, honoring creation, and honor and honesty actually have the same root. So that's something to meditate on someday. But what I'm really trying to get at is that if we're honest with our actions, then we are moral beings. If we are taking actions that are causing harm, and we know they're causing harm, then we're being dishonest with ourselves about what's right, and we're being dishonest with creation. And you know, you can't really lie to the universe. And I also think that honesty in thought, and you know, the way you're honest with yourself, aids aids in that action level of the equation. And the way you're honest with others, I think, is very important as well. And if, you know, we boil down wrong action to theft, which I think we'd all agree there, we should also realize that theft is a form of dishonesty, because you're acting as if something is yours when it is not. And that's basically the gist of it.
Thanks, Philip. Awesome. Aaron?
You guys have made some pretty great points. It's hard to follow up with all that. I think what it means to be a truly moral being is to even stop and ask that question, is, you know, to the ability to stop and be honest and say, what does it mean to be a moral human being? That's the first step for anyone. You know, you have to objectively know what it means. And if you haven't asked that question, then maybe you don't know if you are a moral human being. And being honest with others about, you know, being honest with yourself about where your rights end, and you're actually initiating harm or violence, and knowing that when you do that, it's not just that you're causing a harm or causing violence to, you know, the world around you, but you're also doing that to yourself. And in your actions that you do to others, it's also you know, to yourself and to your own being. And when you betray others, you betray yourself, and that plays out in the consciousness, whether you like it or not. And just recognizing that morality doesn't waver because you know, we want to feel comfortable, or we don't want to be honest with someone else. And yeah, I think that's a large part of what it means. Just my hardest lessons I've learned have always been, you know, it was that, like, when I betrayed other people, and when I did some things that I'm not proud of, that I did that to myself. And it takes honesty, and it takes a lot of um, time to get to be, you know, have some time to yourself, and respect yourself enough, and respect others to ask that question, and to really just that's what it takes, is to ask that question and sit down with it, whether you like the answers you get or not. And that's where I'll leave that.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Eddie?
Good points made by everyone. And Aaron, what Aaron just said, I came up with the little phrase years ago, and I made a decision. When I look at the mirror, I don't want to lie to myself. And that's part of the journey. And wrong action, right action, I've seen a lot over the years. And even before I realized it, I saw myself making the right decision, taking the right actions, the moral action, and at times even paying the consequences, because when you're within the system, and you could say in the belly of the beast, you could be a doctor, a nurse, or anything else, or law enforcement or anything, you will find yourself sometimes taking a small little action that's proper, that's correct, that's right, that's moral. And as you do that, you realize, I'm gonna pay. It may not be major, it may be minor. I'm gonna have some grief over this, but you know what? I'm gonna do it. But I've seen both sides of that equation.
It's a good point too. It's real. That's real. Lily, what do you got for us on morality?
Well, there's so many brilliant people. It's the same. It's doing the right thing, regardless of the outcome or what someone thinks of you. It's doing the right thing, but the right thing being that you're not harming another person with whatever it is you're doing, and it feels right because it's you feel aligned, you know, you the way you think, the way you feel, the thought you have, the feeling you have because of that thought, and the way you react or take the action because of the way you feel and think. It's you know, that's and doing the right thing in that alignment, that's right action, you know, that's morality. Not harming another human being, you know. And like you're saying, you know, it takes courage to do the right thing sometimes, but regardless, you know, I like to do the right thing. And you know, you get a lot of like you said, Eddie, you can sometimes do the right thing, and you know, there's a lot of people try to make you feel like you're wrong, you know, just for doing the right thing. I say that because at the moment, I never know what to call him. My ex, we're still married. He's moving back in here again this week because he can't cope in London because of what's going on. They've had another lockdown there today, and nothing's happening there. And he's having difficulty because of the people that he knows. He said, I think I'm going to be losing friends. He's finally realizing that, you know, if you try and do the right thing, you're going to lose some friends. You know, but I say, friends, really? Do you really want those people in your life? You know, if they don't understand, it's anyway, doing the right thing. Yeah, not harming another person, and regardless of what anybody thinks. Doing
it should be simple. It should be that simple, right? But we can see, like you're saying, how it's not these days, and it hasn't been for a long time. Lawrence, what do you got for us on morality, being a moral person?
Yeah, a lot of great points. Like Aaron said, it's sort of tough to follow all that, but I'll kind of say something a little bit different, but it all ties in together. Being a moral human being implies doing the right thing, like Lily said, no matter what. Having the courage to do the right thing, being conscious of yourself and others in the sense that you're not disconnected or separate from others. So knowing your own interconnectedness to all things, and understanding right from wrong, understanding what rights are. And then also what's really helped me to align myself with what is what does it mean to be a moral human being is tapping into my guilt, like tapping into the feelings of guilt that naturally derive from even the thought of doing something wrong. And I feel like a lot of people don't even know how to tap into their feelings or feel their feelings all the way through in general. And it gets to the point where like guilt doesn't even sprout, or when it does sprout, it's very subtle and they numb it out immediately, or they'll reach people, they'll call somebody that will reinforce their beliefs in immorality, you know? So I think allowing ourselves to feel all the way through is a huge aspect of being a moral human being, because without knowing how to feel, and that has to do with the what is it, our actions and our thoughts and our emotions being all in unison and aligned. You know, that's a huge part of being a truly moral human being in every single moment. You know, not just sometimes, not just, 50% of the time, but 100% of the time, which is learning how to feel that guilt response so you don't do those things that natural intelligence within you says not to do, because it's right there, it's always right there. So yeah, and doing the right thing, like Louis said, no matter what the cost, no matter what it takes, no matter if you're shunned or belittled or looked down upon, or you lose all your so-called friends or more acquaintances, right? They're not even friends if they're gonna let you go because you're being a moral human being. And yeah, tapping into your feelings, learning how to harness what's taking place inside of you, and listening to your own heart, listening to your heart, and listening to what is right, and knowing what is right from what is wrong.
Thanks, Lawrence. I'm glad you brought up guilt. That's interesting. Guilt's a good point, how it's actually a tool for us to recognize. What do you got to add to this conversation, Andrew? Andy?
All excellent points. I think I go about defining just what morality is slightly differently, but it's the same idea. Morality simply is, to me, kind of my working definition. I think everybody's kind of saying this, but acting in harmony with the laws of nature, the laws of the universe, laws of creation, whatever you want to call it, but acting in harmony with it, to the point where trying to violate even physical laws, like trying to act out of harmony with, say, gravity, to me is immoral. And how do you know it's immoral? Because as soon as you jump off your roof thinking you're going to fly, you painfully end up on the ground. And that immediate suffering is the built-in framework of the universe reinforces that what you're trying to do is out of harmony. And this is how the universe kicks you back into harmony, by smacking on the ground and feeling some physical pain. So that concept also applies to actions that don't have an immediate consequence that's recognizable necessarily. The principle's still the same. If you act out of harmony, something in the universe is going to knock you back into harmony, and that usually means that you're suffering in some way until you're back into alignment. And it's not always easy to see where your suffering started, because very frequently there's so many causes. We come from such an immoral world, or morally confused world, that I think oftentimes it's very easy to blame other people. One, because you don't see that you're the cause of that suffering, and two, because you have so many causes of your own suffering, it's hard to pick and pinpoint one. And the suffering's not always the immediate feedback, the way it is in the jumping off the roof example. But since the universe is fundamentally, or one of the fundamental things that's baked into the nature of reality is causing harm to another being, harms, like Lawrence was saying, harms everything. Everything is connected. The universe and its seeking of equilibrium, I mean, that's the way that it was built. We'll come back and find that equilibrium. And if you're acting immorally, that's why you suffer. So
there will be a reaction, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think what everybody said has been right on, and that's my,
thanks, Andy.
My quick definition: acting in harmony with the laws of nature is morality.
And speaking of getting things straightened out, it looks like we got Dominic straightened out. Now he's facing the right direction.
Literally.
Talk
Yeah.
about getting in harmony with things. Huh? What do you got, Dom? It's kind of hard to go last on this question, but I'm sure you could come up with some things about being a moral person.
Sure. First, I want to say thank you for inviting me to this group, even though I'm not a graduate of the True Media class. I think I've done my share of the True Media in the last months, and I really thank you and Will for inviting me, giving me a chance to network with all these great souls. What I would say is, yeah, that there's knowledge about right and wrong actions. But what I would say is that being a moral person is just common sense. But and all that we are teaching is just common sense, but that common sense has been removed, from the people, by the government, by society, by everyone. All these principles, right and wrong, is just basic common sense, and it's not something that you're going to learn in school, but that's what should be in school, like to how to purify water, how to grow fruit and veggies, how to cook, how to build a house, and intrinsic value, how to love, what is love, what is care, providing first aid to someone else. All these things are just basic common sense, but none of the list that I said will be something that you're going to learn in public school. um, and so you know so how can you so that's why people are confused, because what they learn from their parents, what they learn from school, is totally the opposite of being a moral being. Is just being we're just being taught to how to be a good slave, how to obey. um and and What I really liked the last video, about that Mark, the interview you did, Will and John did for the Natural Freedom League with Mark, because most people that having the psychopath, because most people will watch this video and say, "Oh, this guy is mad, this guy is wrong, this guy." But what I see when I watch this is huge love and passion for human being. And same thing with self-defense. People think that if you defend yourself with the right amount of force, you're going to be they're going to have an image of you that as an immoral human being, showing your guns or trying to handle a gun safely, um, without having any intention to do harm to any other sentient being, but just having the intention of defending yourself and your family, is seen as immoral,
That's
because
a
of
good
the
point,
the
Dom.
image that society gives of that self-defense principle, because they want to, again, they are looking for obedient slaves. They want to raise obedient slaves. So all these common sense tools, or every action that you can have which have intrinsic value, they're not gonna teach you that. They're gonna label that as wrong. And that's where your path as a human being, watching, try having confidence that what you learn in school is right, you're going to grow into an immoral human being, just an obedient slave. So that's, yeah, that's pretty much what I would have to add
Yeah,
to
and
this.
that's a good point you're making too, is that there's so many things about the way we grow up that we're indoctrinated or born into, and they're accepted as being right, but they're really not. So that's what makes this sort of an awkward situation. I feel like I remember talking to my daughter one time, and I was trying to explain that morality is really simple, right and wrong. It's very simple. And she said, "No, it's complicated, Dad." And I said, "Why?" And then she actually brought up, what about animals? What about how we treat animals? And that was the moment when I really made a shift and decided I needed to stop eating meat. And so each of us, we're going down this path of learning, and there's always a new thing we come across, that things that are being done that are wrong, or things we're part of, because our whole society, our whole world has been doing a lot of harm to one another and to the planet and to the animals for a long time. So my next question, and well, let's just go in the same order and start again with Will, is how do we start to make that transition where we stop being part of all this evil all around us, and we start being part of creating a good world, where things are done without harm to others and without harm to the environment and the plants and animals and nature itself? How do we start changing the dynamic, Will?
Good question. I was actually, my younger brother just asked me this question. He's like, "Well, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to do a podcast and all this stuff, but he wants to get involved." And I said, "Look, not everybody's going to write a book or have a podcast or do videos. What we really need is people to opt out. It's not about doing something new. It's about not doing something, right? So completely detaching from the system." And I've done a couple episodes on that. We call it detachment activism, because you're detaching from the system, and that is action. That's the action that we need to do, right? We're doing the great work and informing people about natural law, objective morality, and truth. But what we're really trying to do is get them to change their behavior, to stop complying, to understand that they're not a slave, and to stop feeding that beast and feeding that mechanism, that machine. So first and foremost, of course, knowledge, taking that knowledge in and aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions. But that's the internal work. The external is opting out. Don't pay taxes. Let your credit score bomb it. Who gives a shit, right? And start using just cash or crypto, investing in crypto. Get involved with your local communities on food exchanges, and communicate with your local like-minded individuals. Start a group. It's probably one of the best things you can do is look in your local area, and if there's no group, start one. Get the message out and get people together face to face, and have those conversations, and exchange skill sets to help each other out, but ultimately to detach from these governmental institutions. So homeschooling is another one. Unschooling.
Good examples.
That was a great, great statement there, Will. I don't know if I can do any better than that, but I would say just speak up, take risks with your words. Don't remain silent. Be aware of that feeling in your gut that tells you you're afraid to talk. You're just gonna be silent and let you don't want to rock the boat, or speak up. Don't resent. So if you feel that sense of resentment because you're remaining silent, uh, speak up. Say your mind. If it goes through your head, it should come out your mouth. So as you think, so you feel, so you act, and that's where true power lies. Don't uh, just just don't remain silent, and use the technology available. So um, we have the online videos, I think, is the most important right now, and meetup groups. So there you go.
Wow, great things, great things. Basically, I did bring up honesty earlier, and I think that, let me step back 1 second. We're a very polarized society, and I think that's part of our downfall. So I think depolarizing as much as we can, um, except for when it comes to matters of the truth. We should we should polarize ourselves against the lie. We should polarize ourselves against evil. And I think we all have our roles to play. I think that, it's really an internal search to figure out, what can I do to make a difference and bring about the kind of changes that we need. And I think that it's a very internal process to go through, but the more we can wise up to what is going on around us, the more we understand, obviously natural law and morality is a philosophical concept, but the more we understand the world around us, the more we're able to make these decisions that are going to lead to genuine order in this world. And yeah, polarize yourself against the lie. That's the way I see it.
I like that. Aaron, you're up next.
Yeah. It's a big question. How do we get away from being in a excuse me,
Sorry.
in a more from being in a moral society? And the first step, we ask ourselves, am I moral? And then obviously once society starts learning that question, oh, we're not immoral, then you make the transition. And sometimes a transition isn't always necessarily a doing something, but like Will said, it's a pulling away and an opting out, and that's a transition too. And that can be momentum that I think is super beneficial, is that we can all opt out, but if we don't rebuild something, well, I'm not talking about rebuild anything, independently, independent, do our own thing. Nothing, the system, it doesn't have anything that we didn't give it, or well, the system takes too, but ultimately opting out and seeing our options and seeing that our currency and our worth isn't just opting out of the, as best you can. I think it's important for people to opt out of the the monetary mindset of dollar bills, and everyone's worried about their stimulus and all that stuff, but right now we need to be focused on actual sharing resources, actually sharing the truth, actually getting together, actually getting a community. Here locally, my brother started a homesteading Facebook page, and it's just that type of, and now it grows to like 600 people I've never even met that live around me that all do the homesteading. And it's just these simple little things that even if it's just starting an email chain with all your neighbors or something, getting on the same page, and focusing, the morality is the, that's the whole thing. We live in a society. Told my cousin that it's societal sorcery, and it's just every person. We're not really magicians. We're sorcerers, and we're all trying to manipulate and get what we can. And we have to withdraw from that mindset of consuming, and we have to start creating. And right now, the world's in a huge transition, and the tools are at everyone's fingertips, to start sharing the truth and sharing the laws of morality. And it's a simple thing, and these are simple things that really, they are common sense, like Dom said. And yeah, that's kind of where I'll leave it. Just kind of follow our hearts into this path, because we have to be reasonable, and no one's saying we can't have societies. Tearing down the system isn't about tearing down society. It's about tearing down the crystallized authority that exists in society. And opting out, that's just huge. It's just saying no. That's it. And tell yourself no when you're think you should be quiet, because someone's going to have their feelings hurt or whatever, and you're thinking, oh well, I don't want to ruffle feathers or be told to that, oh, I'm a a bad person because I don't think the way. You have to speak out and speak it, be confident, and be courageous. And it's ultimately, it is about doing, and just asking yourself the question. You can ask yourself the question, are we moral? Am I moral? 1,000 times, but it's you have to do it. We're not judged on what we wish we would have done or what our intention was. Ultimately, what takes place is what takes place, and that's where that's where the everything lies.
Thanks, Aaron.
Mhm.
Great words, man. All right, let's move on to Eddie.
So Will had mentioned detachment and saying no. Sometimes in life, the most powerful thing you can do, very well, it's difficult, but it's very short and sweet and to the point, is just say no. And that can be manifested in many forms. After many, many years of this enslavement and what the system has for all of us, I started researching cryptocurrency about 4 years ago. And I've come a long way, and I still have more work to do. And I've taken a few other steps in just trying to break away from the system. And it's difficult because after many, many years of being in this system, it's a process. It takes time, but it's worth the effort. And I've reached out to a couple of people, and it's a process, but it's a journey. You just take the first step and you just keep going. And once you start that process, you begin to build momentum, and you just do a little more and a little more. And I have a long way to go, but it's all part of the journey. But saying no, and sometimes saying no can be manifested in very, very small, little, simple ways, and it's very crucial. But you have to be honest with yourself, do the work within yourself, look at yourself in the mirror, be honest, painfully honest, and just take those steps and take that process, and you build on it. But saying no is incredibly important.
Good point. Lily?
Yeah, I agree, I like the word no. But I think that, obviously all the things you said, breaking away from the system is obvious. And, if you've got the option of becoming self-sufficient and, you know, using crypto and all those things. And but I think the most important thing is trying to affect other people, affect them to think in the right way. People teach people, right from wrong. It sounds so stupid speaking about it because these are the things we were taught when we were 4 years old. I remember when we were young, we knew at the age of 4 and 6 what was right and what was wrong. And somehow, the world's forgotten. They don't know what's right and what's wrong anymore. And I think we need to, with everybody here doing what we're doing, podcasting, getting the message out there, but educating people right from wrong, what their rights are. People don't know what their rights are. You can't learn what's right and wrong if you don't know your rights. Anyway.
Thanks, Lily.
Yeah, all great points. I'm gonna say, obviously, starting to withdraw your energy from the system. Like Ed said, it's definitely a process, and but withdrawing your energy from the system while simultaneously deprogramming your own mind, deprogramming all that conditioning, all that you know that junk that's running through your head that causes you to act the way you do and to believe in authority. I mean, everything starts with the mind. So I'll say watching your thoughts, watching your behavior, watching the way you act, watching the way you do everything has a huge, that's like one of the first things that we have to do to actually, because all the things that we've said are incredible, but like it starts with this, it seems, I mean, I can say it's simple because it is, but it's actually, it putting it into work and putting it into effect is quite a difficult practice, especially in the beginning. But for an individual that wants it bad enough, they're going to do whatever it takes. But just watching yourself and watching how you've been acting and how you behave and how you think and how you do everything is huge. So you can deprogram all those conditioned aspects of your mind that society has engraved in you, and your parents and your religious teachers and everything else have engraved in you, and that you bought. So, you quite frankly, you bought it early on and growing up. And so looking at our conditioning, deprogramming all of it, and being honest with ourselves. Being honest with ourselves is it's these three things simultaneously. So withdrawing our energy from the system, being completely honest with ourselves, and deprogramming our minds and watching ourselves come back into what we actually are. Because I think this whole process is not as much of a like building process as it is a destroying process. It's like we destroy what we are not, and therefore what we are comes to light, So it's like a tearing away of all this conditioning and all these programs and all this, madness that we've encapsulated ourselves in for so long. And what we are is all this knowledge that we're coming to learn, all these concepts that we're coming to understand. That's what we are. So we're just coming back to ourselves. So, yeah.
Relearning.
Yep.
Andy.
I like what you said there, Lawrence, about removing to create. It reminds me of possibly apocryphal quote attributed to, I don't know, Leonardo, one of the sculptors. That's somebody asked him, how do you know what the marble is going to become when you start a sculpture? And he said, well, the sculpture's already in there. I just have to take away everything that's not part of the sculpture. And I think that's a really interesting way to think about that, and kind of just popped into my head, so I thought I'd share. I think what everybody said is great. I wrote down some things that kind of keep this short, but I think it's all about care. I think morality, moral action, bringing yourself into being a moral being, is just entirely about care. So you got to care enough to be strong, care enough to be courageous, care enough to say no, care enough to admit that there are things you may not know, and be courageous enough to seek, care enough to imagine something better, and care enough to build that vision, care enough to learn about the framework of creation and the principles and workings of the laws of nature, and care enough about yourself to act in accordance with these principles and laws. And that's how you become a moral person.
Wow, that's poetic. Nice.
Damn, son. Nice.
Liked it.
Thank you all. That was my distillation of everything that everyone was saying. So
well, it helps when you get a few people in front of you, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So Dom.
Yeah, being last now, oh man,
now the pressure's on, right?
But I mean, no, transitioning to a moral human being starts with saying I was wrong. And that's where you lose 99% of the people, because it's a lot of everyone around me, most of, not you guys, but around me close. I'm in Canada, in the province of Quebec, by the way. And these people, they are comfortable, in they build their own world, their own reality. They pick and choose, a little bit in religion, a little bit there, a little bit of there, but they don't live in alignment with truth. They just live in their own reality, and they cannot admit that they were wrong. So if it's impossible to live to be a moral human being, living in alignment with truth, if you cannot admit first that you were wrong. And that's where I think we have a lot of work to do. But by doing these videos, maybe like all these great videos that I see, sometimes I see, oh man, shit, I was wrong to think that. And it's just creating that spark of, doubt, and then you do your own research, and you because I find comfort personally in thinking that nobody is 100% moral human being, because I'm not, and I don't think that nobody's perfect. But the goal is, I guess, to strive to be a better person each and every day of your life. And yeah, as like exactly as Andy said, you gotta activate true care. Lawrence made an incredibly great video called Understanding Care, and about, and because if you don't care about, being a moral human being and you're comfortable in your lie, then you're just going to be an immoral human being all your life and being comfortable in it. So care is very important. Understanding care is very important, because at the end of the day, intentions and knowledge, are worth nothing without, if you don't care. If you have the best, you're the most knowledgeable people in the person in the world, you have the best intentions in the world. If you don't care to activate and to transmute that knowledge and intentions into right actions, then it's worth nothing. But that's part of our goal to create that spark and ripple effect by teaching others about these principles.
Thanks, Stone. And you've been doing a good job doing just that, which I appreciate. The only thing I could think to add to what's been said is, for me, the word of the year of 2020 had been responsibility. Because what I see going on far too often is, maybe it's because there's so many people in the world. People think everything else is somebody else's problem. Even now down to my own personal health is somebody else's problem. And I think if we could get back to taking personal responsibility for our actions in the everyday moment, being conscious what's going around us. So that means if you're out in public and there's some sort of accident or some sort of bad interaction going on between people, if you're the person there on scene, that means you're the person who's responsible to deal with that situation, not waiting for someone else to come take care of it for you, not calling the police and having them come intervene. That means we use our skills and we work together in our communities with the people that we face day to day, and we take responsibility for our actions. So, obviously it can't be done all at once because we're facing a world of problems, but one step at a time, each of us can start taking a lot more responsibility. And that means the little things, some of the things that have been discussed today. So I guess where I'd like to go then with our remaining time is kind of each person close up, and let's tie this back into natural law. The subjects come up a little bit while we're here. I mean, this is all about natural law. Ultimately, is the solution, is the understanding that the things we do matter and affect others, and all things are connected. So, how do we teach and explain natural law is a little tricky, because it's something that's so normal and everyday, and like Lily said, just simple. But I mean, when I first heard the term, it was like a foreign concept to me. So how does natural law fit into all this? Well,
Yeah. I like to talk about the difference between natural and artificial. When we look in the natural world at the systems that operate, nature is by far perfect. Everything that how she operates, it's perfect. And humans constantly want to well, in this time, they want to create systems, but yet they're looking for the wrong system to duplicate, right? This is where it makes it artificial. It's something that's made up in the mind that doesn't have any basis in the natural world, and that's why these systems fail, right? And we're given these systems, and that's part of the mind control agenda. And so it's important to break down what is natural and what is artificial. And then I really like what a lot of the people said. One, Lawrence talked about pretty much the alchemical process of the self. It's observation is number one, right? That's how you actually observe these systems in nature and how they operate. You observe it. You do that within yourself as well. I keep a journal. During my dark times of coming out of drug addiction, I journaled every hour the behaviors that I was doing. so I can bring it into sight. I bring it into light, and then I can put my attention there and then change it small steps at a time. So we can do this in the self-transformation by just observing our daily behaviors, our daily habits. This is ultimately what ritual is. Rituals in spiritual. So ritual is your habits, your daily habits that create energy and dictate your behavior, the things that you do, and then applying the key component, the quintessence, which is will. And that's how you can make change within yourself and externally. So tying it in with natural law. Natural law is the perfect system that's there that we need to look up to and harmonize with. And yeah, that's that. Cool.
Thanks.
So taking responsibility, teaching natural law. I mean, I'm working on this myself, so I'm no expert. But once you've researched it enough and you understand, you know, uh, the basics, natural law expressions, Mark Passio, um, to go about teaching it, I would say don't focus on uh, the effect or the result. Just put it out there. Don't rack your brain. Um, I'm working on that myself. So it takes contemplation and research and just saying saying things that are objectively true, that are that you know as true as you can. So putting it out there online, that's what I got.
All right,
I
man.
don't know.
That's a start. That's what we do. We just start trying to say it. It's not all going to come out perfect every time. Sometimes we have to just do it a couple times, and then the more you say it, the more it starts to make sense, and the more it comes out.
12
This
times,
is
right?
this
Is
is the
that-
training ground. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, I don't know where I heard this from, but you have to say something 12 times before someone actually considers it. It's like,
I thought
right.
that was hugs.
What's that?
12 hugs a day, I've heard.
There you go.
Probably need more than that.
Yeah, I think we do these days, but we're not allowed to have any, are we? Apparently.
No, that's when we say no, right?
Exactly. Or you say, yes, I'd love a hug.
Yes, I'd love a hug, and no, I won't not hug. How about you, Philip?
Well, okay. So the question is, how do we go about, teaching these ideas, these principles, morality? How do we take these steps and shift out of the way society's heading? There's a very internal aspect to it, and then there's a very external aspect to it. And the alchemists have a phrase, ora et labora, and as like doing your internal alchemy, your shadow work, your whatever you need to do for yourself to better what you're doing for yourself and those around you. The alchemists, like, traditionally have an oratory and a laboratory, where you pray and do that work. But also, and on the external aspect of that phrase is speaking the truth and putting that out there and being the example for others, regardless of the situation. Doing that right thing unapologetically and loudly. And I think there's there's a natural law that I'll call the law of reversal. If you're driving down the road and you miss your turn, well, you've got to put on the brakes and turn around so you can get back there. And our society has a lot of momentum going in the wrong direction. We missed our turn a while ago, and it's gonna take a lot of effort in order to truly turn this ship around before, you know, we sink it. And that's the gist of it. And like, it keeps coming back to honesty in my mind right now, how important honesty is. And even if we make mistakes, if we can be honest with ourselves and we can have enough integrity to you know, let people know that, hey, we made mistakes, but we turned ourselves around and this is the right direction now, and just be forceful about it. That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
A lot of very good, you know, descriptions. And the hardest thing with natural law is it's hard to put it into words. That's the hardest thing, because my experience trying to teach someone natural law, it comes in different circumstances that it comes up, maybe, or you get to share it with someone. But it's almost like the more words that you try to put on it, it almost loses its value, you know, because you're generalizing. And I think they talked about the Tao, which is the you know, it's another word I'm pretty sure that people use for natural law. And it's it's this, if you putting the Tao in words, it's not the real Tao. Like, you can't get a grip on these laws. You can't really wrap your mind around them. What you can do is you know, you experience them, and you know them, internally. They come naturally. It's not anything that you could be taught. It's and natural law is, you know, it's that which hasn't changed. Natural law is the natural, like the spirit inside, you know, that is one with the universe, and it flows. And all, it seems like, uh, the more we think and try to, you know, the active process of trying is almost kind of, you know, making it too obscure or too abstract. And the simplest thing is just, you know, know your rights, know when your rights end and where other people's rights begin. And that is, how you align it. Because natural law is, we could talk about gravity, or we could talk about that type of stuff, but ultimately it's the moral laws that are governing creation, and our moral, you know, that's what really is guiding our development, and what's gonna, you know, we're gonna be judged on what we do. And natural law is totally, indifferent about how we feel or how bad we want to try. It's only doing that counts. And it's kind of a contradiction, because natural law is just natural. It's just what it is. Any word that I could sit here and try to explain it is ultimately, you know, just, it's not it. It's, you know, it's hard. Natural law is, you know, they're just the simple inherent laws that we didn't create, that no one, that, you know, they're laws that mankind did not create, and they exist 100% of the time. And coming into alignment with them is just a matter of being truly yourself, the part of yourself that hasn't been touched by the world and ruined by the world. And that's the true inspiration, I think, that people need to feel, is that when you kind of start to understand natural law, and you feel it and you know it, it feels familiar, and it feels like you're in a flow. It feels like you're in, you know, everything, you know, you recognize your connections with things. And yeah, that there's a lot to get into that, but that's it.
Yeah. You know, it's like it should be easier, but it's hard because things are so screwed up. You know,
Yeah.
in a more honest world, I think it would be all very straightforward. Don't you think, Eddie?
I do, and certain aspects have gotten worse with the COVID situation and the lockdowns. Nothing was done in proportion. Everything had to be extreme, especially here in the Northeast and California. But you take small steps. I try not to force any. Well, actually, I do not force anything on anyone. But occasionally, besides a group like this, of course, occasionally I'll run into someone, and you see that little spark, and they're open-minded enough to just listen a little, and I try to take advantage of that. And I consider that just taking one more step in the right direction. I just gave that person a little bit of something that may help them in their journey. But that's what it's all about. It's just taking that journey, because what we're living through, I call this the new abnormal, which is more painful and more uncomfortable than the previous abnormal.
Love it.
I came up with that in April. I'm sure other people have had the same sentiment, but that's it. You just take those steps and do your best. And when you're around like-minded people, you can accomplish more. When you're around someone who's a bit open-minded, you just do your best and you give with a good mind, with a good heart. You give and you try to help.
The new abnormal. I like that.
Yeah.
It's not just the abnormal, it's the new abnormal.
Yeah.
That's great.
As if it could get any weirder.
Right.
You got any thoughts there, Lily?
Question again.
Well, I was just basically trying to tie it back into the idea of natural law. And, we're talking about if we're becoming moral people, I mean, I guess that is the solution.
Yeah.
But why is it difficult to explain sometimes to people? And so I guess I was looking for just kind of hearing everybody explain natural law from their own point of view, personally, how it works for you.
Well, I just think that you can, you can see how it works. If you can explain it to somebody, they'll see it. I mean, how proportional it is to, morality. The more morality we have in society, in aggregate, the more freedom we have. And, obviously the less morality, the more totalitarianism, which is where we are right now. I mean, we're living under totalitarianism. It's the most immoral life, I think, that everybody seems so immoral around me, right now. And especially all the rag faces, all those rag faces. I think we just call them all rag faces from now on. I mean, that's all I've got, really. I'm a little bit nervous, actually. This is the first time
That's
I've ever
fine. It takes practice.
Because I thought, I'm not going to do notes. I'm just going to talk.
Yeah, and I'm just sort of springing these questions on you guys. I probably would have normally done a little better job of sharing some ideas with everybody ahead of time, but I didn't do that last week. So
I mean, it's
just kind of dropping on you.
Talk about, I mean, this is all.
But what you're saying is a good point. One of my biggest issues has been the mask thing, and I do think it is wrong and bad to be doing. I don't think it's something a lot of people think, oh, it's okay, you have your own choice. Well, you do. Everybody has their own choice, but you can choose things that are wrong. And when
freedom.
How is that breaking natural law? Wearing a mask is a good question, actually.
You don't have the right to follow orders. You know what I mean? And that's how I felt it, at least. Sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, that's
it's just
fine.
That's what it is. I think you're right. And yeah, I fall in that line. It's like, oh, do whatever you want. But ultimately it's like, you're only doing that because you're going to get shamed. And what you're doing is pushing that on me. You know what I mean? And you're pushing that guilt on everyone else. And it's like, I don't know. I won't, I won't get too heated, but yeah, it's just, that's one of those things. And I've not walked into many stores, and you know what it is. You could walk into a store, if without your mask, they say, "Oh no, sir, you have to wear a mask." Okay, well, we just say no. We say, okay, we'll go somewhere else where they don't make us. That's it. Saying no. Being that's it. Most people, they don't care too much. They're just gonna, oh, there's another guy. There's the 30th person that's walked into the store today, or however many, without a mask, and I have to keep sending service business. And that's where it's gonna hit these people, is that people, if we rise up, then we won't be giving them the opportunity to guilt us or shame us into wearing a muzzle.
And that is kind of like what we've been talking about: honesty, being honest with yourself, and being honest with what we are as beings, and not. I don't know. What do you got? What do you think, Lawrence?
Well, to answer your question, your first question about natural law and how to, like, what was it, basically help other people to align themselves with it, or what did I do personally to discover natural law? I guess more. I wrote a few things down here. Natural law comes naturally. I remember when I have I think me and Will have a similar background here, but drugs and stuff. I suffered hard from drugs, and I'm going to be sharing that with my story when I present it. But it natural law came just organically. I didn't know what the Hermetic principles were. I didn't know the words. I didn't know, the terms, all of that. I didn't know that. I just started listening to my inner, like, moral compass, my inner tuning fork that tries to guide me. Like, every time you pick up a cigarette, what does it say? You shouldn't do that. It says it every single time, and it starts to get smaller and smaller the more we suppress it, but it's still always there. So when we harness that, like, natural law is something that we are intricately, like, interwoven within, like we are intricately a part of it, like it is us. So, like, there's no separation between us and natural law. So it comes naturally. And I pulled up this quote that we've all probably heard: know thyself and thou shalt know the universe and God. I mean, it's really that simple. And so don't look outside of yourself. You have to look, and this ties back to observing yourself and watching yourself, watching how you act, how you dress, how you think, how you breathe, how you walk. I mean, every single detail. And that's how you're going to discover the hidden laws of nature. They're not going to become hidden anymore. And then you're going to be able to see it as you're watching it within yourself, and all the stuff that you went through, and all the falls, and all the fiery hell pits that you fell into because of the actions that you were taking. Now you're going to see how it's playing out in the world for everybody else. I just watched Pulp Fiction for, the first time as a awakened human being, right? I haven't ever really watched it. And last night I watched it with my partner, and it was funny that, like, have you guys seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Vincent Vega and Jules, right? These guys, they're hilarious, whatever. But I noticed that Vincent is always dragging around this, like, he's always objectifying everything, and he's always, like, just fucking everything up. He's like blew that guy's head off in the back seat. But when he was with Jules, like, you remember that scene when that guy came out of the room and shot, like, that huge, magnum at him, and it missed him, and They looked at each other, and Jules was like, that was an act of God. And Vincent was like, no, it was just chance. It was just blind chance. And it was like this, you get to see, how natural law plays out in the aggregate, in the collective, as you watch it play out in your own life, and you start learning from what it's teaching you. So I don't know if that Pulp Fiction thing made sense or not. I just wanted to share it, but it's too early to really.
Yeah, it's almost like the two different minds. Like, the conscious mind is recognizing this moment is a miracle, it's amazing, and the other mind is just like, it's just another moment.
Right.
And it's a subtle difference, but I do think those are the two modalities that we're kind of comparing in this conversation. The everyday human being that's just trying to make it through the day and go with the flow, and then the conscious individual who's taking responsibility for the moment and recognizing when something crazy happens around them that it's their job to do something about it or change themselves, like the guy in the movie, right? So
yeah, and then Vincent ends up dead, and Jules ends up, like, changing his whole life. He's like, I'm just gonna go walk the earth. And Vincent's like, you're such a bum, man. You're gonna be a bum. and Vincent ends up dead, and then Jules ends up with like the Holy Grail in the suitcase. He's like this. I'm gonna go walk the earth, man. I think I figured it out now after that last experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great example.
It almost seems like they represent the left and right
Mm-hmm.
part of the brain.
Yeah.
And it's not just that. Also, if you watch a movie at a certain point of time in your life, and then you grow spiritually, and you watch it again, you'll see totally different things, right? Same
Yeah.
movie, totally different thing, but it's the same thing with life.
Yep.
Actually, at some point in life, you see things, you smoke your cigarette. Another point in life, you see that you understand that it's totally wrong to do harm to yourself. To do harm to this great gift the creator gave you to create, and then you're arming yourself, you're injecting yourself with poison, exactly like the vaccines. It's the same crap.
Then you get healthy and the government want to inject you with poison.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
go
very
ahead.
quickly, just to interject very quickly, I actually know people that are actually very anxious to get the COVID vaccine. And of course, there's this criteria. So before the system gets to them, they have to wait. But I know I can think of a couple of people. I mean, they're waiting for it like a little kid waiting for candy, and they'll take the first one. You tell them to take one 6 months later, they'll do it, and they will just take whatever, anything, without question, without research, without study, nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
And that is wrong, because it's setting a poor example for children, for other human beings, and it's accepting harm to humans as being okay. And that's not being a responsible human being, and it's not understanding the natural law of things.
Correct.
What do you got for us, Andy?
I think you hit it pretty well there. It's all about responsibility. And I need to go back and watch Pulp Fiction again because I haven't in years. And thank you, because I always enjoy watching movies after I get somebody's fresh-eyed perspective on it like that. So I really liked what Aaron was saying about the difficulty of putting natural law into words. And he brought up Tao, and Tao actually means the way. And the reason that Tao is the word for it is because it's not something you talk about. It's a path that you have to travel. And I think that kind of ties in, the real way to express natural law to people around you is by doing it. It is hard to talk about. It's possible to talk about, but it's a lot more immediate for people if they can experience it than have it described to them, in my experience. And so everybody said such good stuff. It's hard to, it's hard to talk about, but here's the analogy that I'll use when talking about entropy. Doesn't really exist. Everyone thinks it does. Science says it does. Measuring something as it becomes less orderly means that you're measuring it, means that you're setting a start and an end point to it. And that's an artificial start and end point because it's not the real actual start and end point. It's an artificial parameter. If you look at something through that artificial lens with artificial parameters, what you're seeing is not the same as seeing the bigger picture. Therefore, you're not really seeing the totality of nature. So when you see something falling apart, tending towards disorder, it's only within that time. It's only within that artificially imposed parameter. So then to say, I need to fix that, nature's going to come right back over top of that and impose the actual orderliness of nature back on top of your artificial construct. And ultimately, that's that opposition to that flow of nature, which is actually tending towards orderliness. That opposition is the force of opposition, and that's Satanism. And so understanding nature, understanding the way that it works, and understanding that you're a part of it, and that any parameter you put on it is artificial, is a good way to start to think about it, in my experience.
Excellent.
Yeah, right on.
Dom, why don't you give us your closing thoughts on natural law?
Yeah, well, Mia, we talked about being a moral being, and for me, after years, I was interested in philosophy. I was interested in monolithic structures, human origins, and I stumbled across Mark Passio's work, which led me to other researchers' work, um, like reading the Kybalion and everything. And at some point, I had a moral obligation to do something to spread, because, as I said, knowledge without action is worth nothing. So for me, having that knowledge, I don't know everything. And one of the great quote that gave me the courage to start speaking publicly and doing podcasts came from Jana ESP, who said that natural law teachers, it's not true that natural law teachers are know-it-alls who claim to know everything. They are basically, they know the structure, the natural structure that underlies everything. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that's right. And that was enough for me to give me enough courage to start speaking publicly. And it's an ongoing work of gathering this knowledge, and but spreading it, just keeping it for yourself is totally immoral at some point. When if you have sufficient knowledge about natural law and you keep it for yourself and you just stay an armchair quarterback, or quarterback, as Mark would say. I was like, at some point I was like, shit, I'm one of those armchair quarterbacks, so I got to do something. And since I started teaching, and speaking publicly about natural law, Philip said, like, being an example, and that's exactly what we also must strive to do, be an example for these people, and at the same time work on ourselves, because it's an ongoing work. Also, as I said, nobody's perfect. And as I've been networking with great people, and I feel the energy, and I feel the vibe, and this, and it's just great. I have several support group. We have a Sunday group. We have a lot of groups, and these have brought me so much, like Will, Chris, all these people, and I would have never, you know, come to or met these awesome individuals if I would not have started doing the right action by teaching, you know, people about natural law. So I'm thankful for that, and it just motivates me also to just do more and to grow have the network grow and get the word out there. Speak truth.
Thanks, Dom. And for me, like, hearing each of you reflect on natural law is a confirmation of what I'm trying to say to other people: is don't take it from me, discover it for yourself. If what I'm saying is true, it doesn't have to come from me. It doesn't have to come from any speaker or authority. It's something that's discoverable, that anybody can find. I found this note I took in our last meeting we had with Mark Passio. He said, the universe is a moral compass computer program. And I'd never heard him say that before. He sort of said it offhandedly. And I think it's a good point. It's a good way to look at this situation we're in. This is like a computer program that's like a moral compass. And it's just going to give us back whatever we put in. And obviously humanity hasn't been putting in enough good morality. Otherwise there wouldn't be so much chaos around us. So obviously we all need to work on changing that dynamic. And I think this conversation is a really good step in that direction. Is we're talking about it, we're thinking about it, we're trying to get other people to talk and think about what's it going to take to make a better future. So I really appreciate all your voices and you guys taking this time to speak out, even though it's difficult and kind of putting everybody on the spot, and then even kind of putting you on a timer so we could all get a chance to talk. But I'd like to do it again in 2 weeks if anybody's available. Same time, same place. And thank you so much, guys, for meeting tonight. Anybody have any last words before we cut out?
Real quick, keep one thing in mind. I just thought of this not so long ago. We may be in the midst of a very, very crucial time in human history. So we all may be in the middle of a great, great event. So you're all doing your own part, and I think it's great.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks
Good
everyone.
words.
I
Good words.
encountered something that's been sticking with me this whole year. I was talking to my mom like back in March or April maybe, and she had just been reading. She's a big Bible reader. She had just been reading the story of Joshua right before they cross over the river to go beat some enemy of theirs. Anyway, there was a verse in there that stuck with me. It has little to do with the story, but the verse is quite simply be strong and very courageous. And that's been kind of my mantra for the last year. And what Eddie's saying is absolutely accurate. And the way that we get through it, in my opinion, is by being strong and very courageous. So I just wanted to share that.
Absolutely.
Good.
Here,
Good
here.
words.
Well said.
Say that we may be small in numbers right now, but you know we're brave. You know, we've been brave. I mean, it doesn't feel brave, you know, but that's how it appears when you look at all the cowards, you know.
Yeah, and especially when we get together like this. I've been talking about this for a while, and Pasio talks about how when he was into Satanism and things, how they would get together and they would be all on the same page, and they would be basically creating this like thought monster, like this egregore, like basically acting and aligning their actions and aligning their thoughts with the reality that they've already accomplished what they've set out to accomplish, and then they would celebrate it. So like I see this as kind of on the opposite side, obviously. Us
Right.
doing that, we're all creating this egregore, this giant like thought, warrior, right? Truth warrior or whatever. And that's very, very powerful. And the more we do that, the more we're going to see ripples, and pockets are going to be created throughout the world. I mean, it's happening right now. So yeah,
Nice.
stay strong and courageous, like
Be strong,
Andy
be
said.
courageous.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just one crazy guy anymore.
Right.
All right, guys. We gotta let Will go. He's got an appointment. Let's do it again in 2 weeks. Thanks for
Okay.
coming.
All right.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
everybody. That was
Thank you,
awesome.
everybody. Thank
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
guys.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Great.
Take care.
Yeah.
Good night.
Later.
Later.